What's going on, people? Today, I want to talk about boron supplementation and the effects of boron on testosterone levels in men. Boron seems to be one of these supplements that's starting to pick up some momentum recently, which is kind of funny because about 7 or 8 years ago, I was doing a lot of research about natural supplements that I could take to increase my testosterone levels. I was really interested in that. And boron was one of the supplements that I came across. But at the time, there weren't really a lot of options as far as buying different, forms of boron, and there weren't really that many brands of boron, at least from what I could remember. I ended up buying Now Nutrition boron, which the form wasn't good. It wasn't boron citrate, which is a better form. Uh, and then I ended up finding a test booster at Walmart that I purchased only because it had boron citrate in it. So what I did was I just took both forms of boron at the same time, and I did that for about 3 or 4 years. So it's funny now everybody else is catching up and they're catching on to the fact that boron could have some potentially positive effects. But I want to talk about a study that I came across that supports these facts, and then I'm going to talk about my own personal experience and whether I really agree with this study or not. So the study uh, took a bunch of men. They took 6 milligrams of boron per day, and it showed that their testosterone levels actually did increase significantly. Their blood testosterone levels. They went from 11.83 picograms per milliliter to 15.18 picograms per milliliter. And then they found that the estrogen levels apparently had dropped significantly in these men. They had went from 42.33 picograms per milliliter down to 25.81 picograms per milliliter. Now, um, you know, this is great. If this is true, obviously this is a result that you would want in terms of taking a natural supplement with the intended goal of increasing your testosterone. I mean, increasing your testosterone is great, but decreasing your estrogen on top of that, that's even better, right? It's a win-win. Like it's kind of like two birds with one stone. So the study showed that had a lot of positive effects. Boron also had effects on bone growth and wound healing and a bunch of other things, but I'm just going to talk about the hormone profile right now because that's what we're all interested in. So, how does boron increase the testosterone levels in men? Well, it increases the biological half life and bioavailability of E2 or estrogen and vitamin D. So it actually makes it so that vitamin D is more potent, it's more effective in your system, and same with the E2. So this is obviously great if you're looking for something. You don't want to take steroids. You don't want to completely shut your system down. Um, this is a good option. If you're looking for something natural. Now, what's the best form of boron to take? The best form is boron citrate, but a lot of people swear by a complex that has boron citrate, boron glycinate, and boron aspartate. So if I were to take boron again, which I'm considering doing after reading this study, but if I were to take boron again, I would probably try the complex. I would buy the complex just so that I have all of the forms in my system, just in case the citrate alone isn't as good as the complex, because this already has the citrate in it. So I would recommend, just go on Google, type in boron complex, and there's going to be a million brands. It's not like back in the day, like almost a decade ago, when there was nothing. There was only one boron you can get. It was Now Nutrition, and it wasn't even boron citrate. It was just crap, right? It might as well have just been sugar or flour, to be honest with you. Um, Now I'm going to tell you my personal experience taking boron in the past, and I actually did take boron citrate, and how it made me feel. So I took boron citrate, and it was a a test booster that you could get from Walmart, and it had boron citrate in it at 5 milligrams. So I would actually take double the dose. So I'd end up taking about 10 milligrams. So, the dose was 2 capsules, and then it said take it twice a day. 2 capsules had 5 milligrams. So they wanted you to take 10 milligrams a day. And so sometimes I would spread it out. Sometimes I would just take it at the same time. So I would take anywhere from 2 capsules twice a day to just 4 capsules at once. So that was kind of what I was doing. And I will say that I felt a difference. I felt more energetic. I felt more kind of like mentally stimulated. All of the effects of testosterone that you would expect, I did feel, but it wasn't like necessarily groundbreaking or so effective that I can't live without it. But I did feel an effect from taking it. However, the test booster also did have ginkgo biloba in it, and it had rhodiola extract. So these things are gonna affect your brain too. The ginkgo biloba will affect your mental performance and your mental energy. Rhodiola extract is also going to help with energy and recovery from the gym. So, how much of what I was feeling was due to the boron or the ginkgo biloba or the rhodiola extract, and there might have been a couple other things in there too. Who knows? But I do think that the boron citrate is the best form, at least that I've tried, and I do think that it is effective based on my personal experience. So if you are thinking about trying it, I think it's worth a shot because it's pretty cheap. Just go online, Google boron citrate or boron complex. Pretty cheap. You can get it for like $15, plus shipping. And then, so for 20 or $25, you could just have a bottle, try it for a month, see how it affects you. Now, I do want to talk about the potential. This is something that this study doesn't go over, right? And this is something that you need to know as well about boron, because there are also studies that show that boron will increase estrogen levels in both men and women. So this is the other side, right? It seems like this study is really hyping up boron, but we need to look at multiple studies. So there are also studies that show an increase in estrogen in men and women. So you have to keep that in mind too. You might try the boron and it might work for you. You might try the boron and it might make you feel worse. I think it's going to depend on your starting point. So like, let's say you're starting at a point where you're lean and you're, working out regularly, your diet's on point, and naturally you have a low, you're on the lower end of the spectrum when it comes to your estrogen level, and you have decent high testosterone, and you naturally don't aromatize a lot of testosterone into estrogen. And aromatization is when your body converts testosterone into estrogen. So let's say that naturally you don't aromatize a lot of testosterone into estrogen, right? So if you took boron, chances are you would feel positive effects, because even if it increases your estrogen, worst case scenario, it's just going to bring it up to normal range, middle normal range, right? But it probably will have an impact on your testosterone levels as well that will be positive, that you'll see benefits from, right? But let's say on the other end of the spectrum, you're you're not really working out, your diet's not on point, or even you are working out and your diet's on point, but you aromatize a lot, right? Naturally, you're estrogenic. Maybe you have a little bit more fat on your chest area and your buttocks because, you just, unfortunately, your hormone profile isn't very masculine. You tend to have higher estrogen levels. Maybe your estrogen levels are on the higher end of the normal spectrum, or even high in general, right? And maybe your testosterone is in the middle range or even low. Let's say you took boron. Well, you might not have the same effect as the first guy, because it probably will increase your estrogen a little bit more, and it might even get to the point where you're out of that upper normal range and you're actually high when it comes to estrogen. And is it going to increase your testosterone enough to where you're going to notice a difference, or is that increase in estrogen going to outweigh the improvement in your testosterone levels, right? So I don't 100% believe in this study. I think that they were trying to hype it up, and I'll put the study in the description, so I'm not just making this up as I go. I'll put it in the description so that you can look at it, and I'll also put a link to the increased estrogen levels in the description too, so that you can see that there's two sides to the story. But the only way that I can think to mitigate estrogen levels increasing would be an aromatase inhibitor, of some sort, or something like proviron that you could take alongside boron. But then at that point, you're taking drugs, right? And the point of just taking boron on its own is because you don't want to take drugs. Not that I think that proviron is necessarily bad on its own. I think aromatase inhibitors are probably horrible because they don't really they have a lot of negative effects on your body. But that being said, I mean, you're looking for something natural that you can take without anything else, right? And I think that whether or not boron is going to affect you positively is just going to depend on your personal hormone profile, your activity level, your diet. So I think it's worth a shot, but also be aware that the placebo effect is real. A lot of people are prone to the placebo effect. There's also an effect where you might notice a difference. There might be a legitimate improvement in how you feel. It might be like 10%, 15% improvement. And that improvement will cause a broad placebo effect that then makes you think that it's even more. So then you think it's like a 60% improvement when really it was just like a 10 or 15% improvement, and you were just amplifying it. You were blowing it out of proportion, right? Anyways, so just I think boron is worth a shot. Make sure that you get boron citrate or the boron complex that has boron citrate, boron glycinate, and boron aspartate. And don't go into it thinking that it's going to be a complete game changer necessarily. Just take the boron with the idea that, like try to convince yourself you're not even taking anything, right? Just take it and forget about it. And then if you notice improvements, you notice changes, then it's real, right? But I know it's impossible to pretend like you're not taking anything because you're going to know in the back of your mind that you are, but don't have high expectations necessarily because again, it's a supplement. It's not going to be a game changer to the point to where it's like a PED. If it's not banned, it's probably not going to be as amazing as you think. That's just the reality of the situation. And boron is not banned by any organization to my knowledge. So worth a shot, but be realistic with what you expect. And that's my view on boron. So yeah, try it out. If you've taken boron and you have experience with it, talk about your experience in the comments. I'm interested in knowing different people's reactions to boron and whether they like it, whether they didn't like it, whether they didn't feel a difference. So let me know in the comments what you think of boron if you've taken it or whether you're thinking about taking it. All right. Have a good day. Bye.